Hello, everybody. I am Benjamin, the UK's most hated sales trainer, here with another public service announcement around cold calling. So what do I want to focus on today? I want to focus on handling objections. Yes, you all know them. You get them on the telephone. So it's important when we're trying to handle objections to remember certain things. One, not every objection is an objection. Some are literally statements of fact. Yeah, so a statement of fact may be over insurmountable, I should say. You might not be able to get around it if it literally is a statement of fact. Yeah, and statements of fact exist. Sometimes prospects say things that are true. Let me give you an example. Right now, you will have clients. And I also know right now that your competitors are probably trying to cold call your clients. And I bet deep down you're hoping that all your clients are saying to anyone that should phone them up offering similar comparable services, that they're saying, oh, we're very happy with our current supplier. I bet that's what you want them to say, because that's what I would want mine to say. So when you hear a prospect say, we're happy with our current supplier, it is quite possible that they are actually telling the truth, because believe it or not, there are a lot of business out there that actually do what they say, and they deliver to the expectations that a customer has expected. So people are happy with their supplier. So just because you get an objection, it doesn't mean it is literally a dismissive fob off all of the time. So our job is to simply try and separate statements of fact from smokescreens, from things just said to get rid of us. So that's a skill. Yeah, so this is where we've got to learn, how do we deal with these things when we hear them? So the simplest way, as everybody knows, all I ever do is answer questions with questions. I answer statements with questions. You can start to see the picture here. Respond always in the form of a question. Very hard to master, challenging to do when under pressure. But this is the other thing. There is nothing that your prospects, when you're cold calling, can say to you that you have not heard before or that you can prepare or plan for. So if they ever say anything that shocks or surprises you, that's your own bloody fault, because you should have prepared for it. It's not that hard. If you've been cold calling for a month, you've heard it all, right? If you're 4 years in and still being shocked by what prospects say, or losing your train of thought, or getting tongue-tied, get out. Get a new job. My goodness, what have you been doing? This isn't complicated stuff. So I've written down four, or maybe four anyway. We'll do the top four common sorts of objections that we get when we're telephone prospecting. Why don't we start with fine, thanks. We're fine, thanks. You know, you start to do your whatever it is you're going to do, and they just say, no, look, we're fine, thanks. So how should you deal with that? Challenge it with a question. We're fine, thanks. All I do when somebody says to me, we're fine, thanks, I go, fair enough. Didn't you mean to say everything's perfect? Now, two things happen. They either correct themselves, go, yeah, it is perfect. That's what I meant to say. Or they say, well, look, no, nothing's ever perfect. Now I've got it in. I go, what do you mean? Now, you may get them, you may not. People say to me, well, that won't always, of course it won't bloody always work. I'm not an idiot. What I'm saying is I can keep the conversation going a bit longer. Where I find a chink, I may be able to make that chink grow, or it may just be a little chink. I may not be able to do anything. So someone says to me, we're fine, thanks. I go, makes sense. Didn't you mean to say, though, everything's perfect with our sales? Well, no, no sales team is perfect. Before you go there, one quick question in. If there was one thing you could change or fix or make better that could make your sales team perfect, what would it be? Now, they aren't going to pick something. It could be something ludicrously without your out of your purview. They could say something that you could fix. You don't know. So that's how I deal with this. Now, like I'm saying, this isn't a guaranteed 100%. If you say, didn't you mean to say everything's perfect, that they'll suddenly go, oh, my God, you're right. Please come and see me. No. What I'm saying is we're not going to bail too soon. We're not going to get tongue-tied in this arguing with them. We simply challenge it. Didn't you mean to say everything's perfect? So that's another one. Another one. I have no interest. I'm not interested. Not interested. I have no interest. Again, we go back in the form of a question. When you say you're not interested, did you mean to say never, ever, under any circumstances would you consider exploring what we do? So I push them to the extreme. Never, ever, under any circumstance. And now two things will happen. I go, yes, absolutely. Piss off. Fine, I'll take that. Although, well, no, look, I didn't say, no, I'm not ever. I mean, I'm not completely stupid. And then you may have a bend, then you've got another bit of an in. Yeah, so this is simply not taking the objection and arguing with it. Next one, we already have a supplier. Great. No, I appreciate that, sir. I mean, obviously that's the main reason I'm calling, because I know you have a supplier. So would it be fair to say then that there is nothing anyone could say or do, no matter how cheaper or better the alternative to your existing supplier is you would never ever consider exploring it or looking into that? Is that what you're telling me? Again, they can only say one or two things. Yeah, that's it. Never, ever, ever going to consider. Or they can say something like, well, I wouldn't say never, ever. I mean, you'd have to convince me. Fine. Now we may have a conversation. It's all about asking questions to establish if what the prospect said is actually true, the statement of fact, or if they're just saying it because it's an easy way to get rid of you. And finally, I don't take cold calls, which is always an interesting one considering they've answered the phone. So if somebody ever says to me, I don't take cold calls, I just go back with a question. What do you mean? Very simple. Now, all they're going to say is, I don't know. You never know what comes out of a prospect's mouth. But what can they say? This is the thing. There's only a range of answers. What could they say? What do you mean? What do I mean? I mean, I would never buy from... They may change. They may say, I would never buy from someone over the phone, which is completely different from I would never take a cold call, isn't it? If you're listening, you spot these things. I just don't like them. Okay, so last question before you go then. Yeah, why'd you answer this one? I got nothing to lose. I don't care. This is the other thing, and I really need to stress this. Salespeople take prospecting too seriously. It's not that serious a business. We are literally looking for 2 and maybe 10 to 15 people that need what we have. On that way to finding those 2 people, we're going to meet about 10 to 13 that don't need or want what we have, which means you're going to have more conversations with people that don't want what you have than are with what you have. So get good at just asking these guys great questions, because I tell you what, the skill you're going to develop and build up asking these guys great questions, you're definitely going to need when you talk to the right people, because that's where you've really got to be listening and really got to be probing. So I hope these little tips have helped you. And if you haven't liked any of them, I don't care. Right. Now go out there and don't let the buggers grind you down.